You've probably heard the stories. The cowboy who roped a cyclone and rode it like a bucking bronco across the Texas plains. The pioneer kid who fell out of a wagon near the Pecos River, raised by coyotes until he forgot he was human. According to the lore, he used a live rattlesnake as a whip, fed his horse a diet of dynamite, and casually dug the entire Rio Grande with a stick just to water his cattle. Looking at archival records like this photograph of a late 19th century cattle drive, we've always assumed these tales were born in the dust of the frontier. We picture rugged cowboys passing them down around campfires to entertain each other on grueling trips north. But that entire oral tradition is an illusion. Pecos Bill wasn't dreamed up by working cattlemen in the 1800s. He was invented in 1923 by a magazine writer, making him what folklorists call fakelore. A 1923 magazine story had successfully overwritten nearly a century of assumed frontier history, convincing an entire nation to adopt a manufactured character as its quintessential hero. By the 1920s, the United States was rapidly urbanizing. The frontier was officially closed, replaced by paved roads, factories, and skyscrapers. City dwellers craved a connection to a wilder, untamed past that was slipping away. Enter a journalist and humorist named Edward Tex O'Reilly. In October 1923, he published a story titled The Saga of Pecos Bill in the Century magazine. If you read the introductory text of this original publication, you can see O'Reilly didn't present his work as fiction. He explicitly claimed these were mighty deeds sung for generations by the men of the range, authentic yarns he was simply collecting for the reader. He packed the text with gritty, satirical details to sell the illusion. He wrote about Bill arguing with a cattleman over whether or not he had a coyote's tail, blending absurdist humor with rough-hewn dialect to make the whole thing feel like an unearthed artifact. O'Reilly wasn't a historian, he was a media architect. He built a cowboy hero that provided exactly what a modern audience wanted the Lost West to be. To make the illusion stick, the stories had to match the brutal reputation of the West. O'Reilly gave Bill a horse named Widowmaker, a beast so volatile he had to be raised on a diet of nitroglycerin. He also introduced Slewfoot Sue, a cowgirl who insisted on riding Widowmaker in her wedding dress. In O'Reilly's original telling, her steel spring bustle caused her to bounce for days until Bill finally had to shoot her to spare her from starvation. This diagram illustrates a mechanism we can call the amplification loop. A story doesn't spread because it's perfectly accurate. It spreads because each time it's told, the details that sharpen the cultural image survive, while the boring parts disappear. The American Southwest was a punishing environment. To psychologically endure the sheer scale and brutality of the landscape, the people reading these magazines back east required legends that were even larger and more violent than nature itself. That's how you get a story where Pecos Bill rides a massive cyclone all the way to Arizona, raining out the earth beneath his horse to carve the Grand Canyon. The exaggeration operates as a cultural defense mechanism. It takes terrifying, uncontrollable natural forces and shrinks them into obstacles that a single, resilient individual can beat into submission. When scholars eventually caught on to the deception, they pushed back. Folklorists like Richard Dorson attacked the Pecos Bill stories, labeling them fakelore, because they were commercial products masquerading as traditional heritage. But the public ignored the academic distinction, retelling and reshaping the stories until the fake character took on a life of his own. People shared the tales in camps, in local classrooms, and family living rooms. By entering the oral tradition after the magazine ink dried, Pecos Bill managed to become an authentic folk hero through the back door. Over the decades, his rougher edges were sanded down. Studios like Disney adapted the stories, softening the harsh violence into family-friendly adventures that integrated the character into the national identity. A myth doesn't need to be ancient to be authentic to a people. It only needs to be repeatable. Pecos Bill survives because he functions as a mirror. We read about a man who ropes tornadoes and rustles mountain lions, and we see the rugged individualism that America still wants to believe about itself.